Story begins with Jang's. He walks through the megacity and the sky turns dark. A light shines from the sky, but what people suppose is the end of the world. Commodity strange emerges from the sky. All people between the periods of and have a system that says that the world of slaughter is about to open and all people on the earth in that age range will be transferred to that world. At the same time, that world is a place where giant beasts and demons lie far and wide. It is full of death and peril, but also of coffers and openings. In this place you can die at any moment, but you can also gain eternity. A light comes down from the sky and transports him to the neophyte city where there's an original number of beginners in each town. Jang falls into this rustic cabin that has the Elysian blessing, but without his concurrence no bone can enter it, and by resting in the rustic house his recovery of strength and energy will double. Jang realizes that the Elysian light system is veritably analogous to a videotape game interface, and also has a particular information section and opens the public converse where everyone communicates. Most of them are spooked because they do not know what's passing. It seems that the combat power evaluation is related to force, so as the statistic increases the combat power evaluation will increase and the survival probability will increase. Right now most people only have 1 star and smaller at their limit. Both Jung's physical and dexterity and strength don't reach points, and judging by what they say the loftiest energy statistic is only points, which would be half of Jung's. Although he doesn't know what it serves, he knows that it'll be an advantage to him. The system sends him a communication depending on his statistics and personality. A natural gift will awaken. The bents are divided into 9 species, which are FEDCBASS and SSS, being ranked F the smallest and rank SSS the loftiest, and bents above SS are unique bents. Jang knows that he has a lot of bad luck, so he thinks that he will surely not awaken a good gift. On that a communication appears telling him that if he wants to awaken his gift, Sajang accepts and appears a strange place girdled by balls. He knows that the balls are related to the awakening of his natural gift, so he thinks that an important gift must come from a special ball, so he intends to find it, but a transitory ball hits him and awakens his unique SSS ranked gift of horizonless birth. This system puts announcement telling him that the awakening of the neophyte bents has ended. Awoke as a rank F gift with rank E and 2 with gift above rank X. Jang knows that his gift is extremely rare since utmost awakened with rank F or talent, and those who have awakened with rank D gift are less than 2% of the beginners. He knows that besides him someone differently also awakened with the gift above us rank. In the public converse they say that the rank C awakened should speak to see how amazing someone of species he's. So Lu, the species he awakened, tells them that he awakened glamorous control, so everyone tells him to take them with him. Jang sees that the rank C gift is being praised, so he knows that if he announces his inflated SSS rank talent, not only will there be praise and cheers but also sweat later. Each in the world full of butchery and death, his gift is his topmost survival armament, so he cannot put that information out fluently. System sends him a communication that from now on they will be suitable to leave the rustic house and enter the neophyte city, and in twinkles the neophyte evaluation will spark, and those who don't pass the evaluation will be killed directly. The styles for leveling up are killing all kinds of beasts, demons, monsters, and carrying energy to ameliorate his body. The system sends him a neophyte armament. Jang takes out his brand. All beginners have that brand. The attack power depends on the strength statistic. 1 point of strength equals 1 point of attack power, and Jang's brand has 2 attack points, so he tests and improves it with his gift, carrying a sword brand with an attack power of 5, so he thinks of perfecting the brand again with his gift. He tries again and knows that he has a better armament than all the other beginners. He hears voices outdoors, so he realizes that everyone has formula left, so he goes out to see the world outside the house. The system forces him to go out and kill monsters because if they don't reach position they will be excluded, and they only have days for the neophyte evaluation. In the middle of the city there's a gate, that's the exit of the city. When they enter the portal they arrive at a world full of slaughter. Long time Agon from Diary of a Townie. Someone new came to the village. He didn't leave a good print. He must have been through some suitable tough times. That's presumably why his eyes feel to have an unknown honey in them. I wanted to get relief of that man, but the Ville had accepted the foreigner as always. I decided to not watch too important about it. It had been 4 days since the man settled in the Ville. He seems like a quiet man. Many noisy residers in the Ville showed interest in him, but I wasn't particularly interested. Roughly 10 days have passed since the man came. Now I have an idea as to what that man is doing. The kiddies who were skimming over his hedge told me that he trained with Brand every day. Looked like he'd a painful backstory. Now I know what it's. Still I'm not interested in him. Another month had passed. He still wields his brand in his yard. Have not seen him however, and still not interested. Month has again passed. The man still wields the sword, and the townies continue to chatter about it, that he was stropping his brand chops for some kind of vengeance. Might be was a departed knight or a notorious mercenary. They're nosy and I am not particularly interested. Hereafter I will go see him to exercise his brand. He has been training for half a time every day. My curiosity rose. How fast is he and how strong he might be, but know it all. Hereafter I'm hugely disappointed. It might look great for reciters who know nothing about the brand, but I've seen several swordsmen working. I can tell for sure he was not great, but in reality he was average. As I walked towards the yard I allowed that there has to be a painful story about this man, but it did not look like he'd break his problems. He's a stupid person. I really need to stop paying attention to him. A family came into the villa, sheltered mercenary, one son and son still. His son was relatively a beauty. When she smiled, it's like an angel had come down from heaven. I will try talking to her hereafter, and this is not veritably important, but the man swung his brand. Moment. It has been 3 times now. Today was a strange day. Right now beside me my beautiful woman Rama is asleep. I'm so happy. Oddly enough, the Joe who has absolutely nothing to do with me keeps popping into my head. 5 times is a long time. I who fell in love, got married and set up happiness, but that person did not change. He just stood there in the same place, swinging and swinging and swinging again. I'll have to check every day from hereafter. 5 times. 1 month the man has kept training with his brand. 5 times. 2 months the man has kept training with his brand. It has been 6 times. It's snow, but he still trained Rama, and I had a lovely child, my lovely son. Everyone give me congratulations for baby girl, but that man non-stop his training. It's have been 7 times. Time was going fastly. So moment has been 12 times. I'm not as interested as I used to be. His training is like nature's rhythm. How could that man be obsessed with it for such a long time? And 35 times have passed. Village man with his wrinkled face woke up beforehand in the morning. He was the Ville chief. He was Reme's hubby and Laura's father. Everyone in the Ville liked him for tree feeding others with a warm smile. The times have changed him. After precisely examining every niche and fissure of the Ville, the last place he went was where not numerous people visited, the house of the man who trained with a brand in his hands. But moment commodity different came into his eyes. He snappily moved as he was shocked. The old man was not particularly ill, but he was not strong enough to run. The old man stood with his wide eyes. A colossal brand was supporting the swordsman and the table where Argentine light was around him. The Ville man did not say anything until it'll end. When table where Argentine light vanished in heaven, he led him down and closed his eyes. The townie looked down at the old swordsman's body for a moment and spoke with heavy eyes. Rest in peace. Suddenly golden hair boy opened his eyes, sweating each over his body, allowing about dream he saw right now about brand man and Ville. Now we see Farah at a state located in the southern part. For a while a guard with a large nose who had been silently listening until then spoke. No matter how great princess is doing in the end, the eldest son is that prince. The senior guard, who had been all praises for the princess so far, was shocked and said that prince doesn't intend to get out of bed. What is so great about him? However, the big nose guard didn't stop mumbling, and a fierce quarrel broke out. Both the guards' faces turned red by anger. The rookie who was stuck between them wasn't sure what to do. It was true that young Lady Kirill is famous, but there is another person who is more famous than her. People call him the lazy lord. As the guard said, he was always asleep. By the time he did nothing but sleep all day. It probably had something to do with the accident in which he lost his mother. Seeing his mother die right in front of his eyes at that young age must have been shocking. It was when he was in thought. A high-pitched voice came from behind. The 2 guards who were arguing turned around and were shocked. It was Kirill Farah and her mother, the second wife of Baron Emil Farah. Their blue eyes were focused on the guards. 3 of them immediately bowed in front of them. Kirill Farah reprimands the guards for a long time. After a while, Emil stopped her in a calm voice, saying that guard has understand their mistake and asked them if they all say immediately that they understands, and said that they never gossip while duty. The guard who was sweating answered once again loudly, and the young magician and baroness disappeared towards the garden. The rookie who had been watching the scene gulped at the scene. At that time Irene Farah, the eldest son of the baron, couldn't sleep. He would sleep in the morning when others wake up, and slept the entire day when people were struggling to make a living. It was truly strange. The usual Irene hardly dreamed, but the dreams he had been having for the past few days were completely different. He still remembered that sweetness in his mouth and the way muscles burn when he was exhausted with sword. They are all seems to reel for him. Curve of action. He can't sit still now, so he calls someone. Reaction was quick. A servant dressed in neat attire asks his lord if he needs something. Irene hesitate a bit, but then asked that he wants sword. Servant didn't realize for a moment, but as soon as he understand the word, his eyes couldn't help but pop out, and he was doubting his ears. In the training hall of the Farah family, the soldiers who were doing their personal training each made their own guesses, gazes filled with unease, no one believing what they are seeing. None of them thought that Irene would practice. Servant explained him all wooden swords are the same, they vary in shape and length. He is not familiar with swords, so he can't recommend a suitable sword for the young lord, so he suggests to call an expert. But Irene said that he is all right. He soon skimmed through the entire place and slowly picked up a sword. Soldiers couldn't believe in his eyes, think that he is dreaming, but one soldier pinched him to wake up. Servant's expression darkened. It's not an unusual sword, rather it was close to the standard one, but the size was too big to the extent where it felt like the young lord have trouble handling it. His sword movements were so disappointing that they couldn't help but laugh at this. Is natural. There is no way that the most lazy person of the kingdom can wield the sword well. As soon as he picks it, they think that he come because of that young Lord Giron of neighboring a state who humiliated him in face, and Irene couldn't say anything back. People's interests faded in no time, saying that he will give up in no time, going to crawl into bed. Their negative attitude could be felt by the servant, who was standing on the side. His eyes widened in rage. He said to his lord that swordsmanship is difficult and cannot done by Allah alone, so he should take advice from expert, but Irene didn't know what he was saying. He couldn't
about
stop
Roman's
his
current location and is informed that Roman has left the kingdom. Upon learning that Roman plans to attack their headquarters alone, the old man becomes frustrated and orders his men to gather all their army and begin strategizing to kill Roman Dimitri. He also ordered his men to do whatever it takes to stop Roman to achieve his goal. The old man, consumed by his desire for power and control, decides that the only way to set an example for those who dare to attack Blood of Fangs is to kill Roman and publicly display his dead body in the central plaza. He wants to make sure that everyone knows the consequence of going against them. The story then shifts to a meeting of the king in the Lawrence kingdom, where they are discussing the Borco family's preparations for war against them. One of the officials informs the king that the central government is supporting the Borco family, which will lead to an absolute victory for them. The king is then told that they will have no other choice but to give up their own territory. The king of the Lawrence kingdom refuses to give up their territory at any cost, as their kingdom will cease to exist without their soil. Furthermore, the king knows that if they give up their territory, other kingdoms will take advantage of their vulnerability and attack them, leading to an even worse situation. In this dire situation, they remember the Dimitris. Even though they were commoners at the beginning, they are now the wealthiest in their region. The king thinks that they can seek help from the Dimitris in order to protect their kingdom and its people. The king orders his men to contact the Dimitris and seek their help in this situation. Laura, who had been listening to the conversation between the king and his officials, is hesitant to reveal to her father that she broke off her engagement with the Dimitris. She fears her father's reaction and the possible repercussions. However, as she reflects on her true feelings,
hands which were holding onto the sword from trembling every time he wields sword, it feels like his entire body screaming in pain, but he feels the more he reenact what happened in his dreams, he feels like a heavy burden lifted within himself. Every swing of sword make his one bad memory disappear and unease within his heart, so he can't stop but swing and swing. A loud voice entered Irene's ears. It was the servant. He wanted to stop him because Irene was practicing from long time and now it's dark. He took a step forward to ask, but he couldn't. He stumbled to the ground, but serve and catch him. The intense pain spread around him and he was feeling very weak. Servant explained him that he overdid it. It really was dark outside, although it wasn't night, it was close to purple time when the sun set. Still looking blank, he looked up at the servant and said, "If it has been that long, you should have gone somewhere or called me out." Servant replied that he didn't dare to leave and he tried to call him, but he couldn't listen. He said to his lord that he can go and sleep now. He will clean this place, and he is very happy that his lord is training, but he can't do overdid in one time. Went to bed a pain worse than the time when he moved. His body was spreading throughout his body. Regrets flooded and it seemed like he wouldn't be able to sleep. Fatigue greater than the pain drifted him into the world of sleep. Now we see 5 days later, Irene wakes up in the morning and has his breakfast. The servant still can't believe seeing him like this. He asks his lord if he is going to train again today, to which he says yes. Ever since the dream, in order to satisfy his body's curving, he has to wield the sword. And as he practices more and more, his mind becomes clearer and he feels proud of himself, which is not bad at all. He thinks that he will have to eat lots of food to do more training, so he asks for more breakfast. Those soldiers were again standing there talking, but just then an old man calls them from behind. He had a huge beard and a stick in his hand. The soldiers asked him his introduction and where he is from. He tells that he is a wandering knight and has set out on a journey. Being a retired swordsman, he is a bit curious and wants to see the training hall of this estate. He says that he has permit too and starts searching for his permit in his pockets. The soldiers tells that there is no need to worry and lets him and the soldiers also go inside with them. And senior guard is shocked to see Irene practicing. The long-nosed soldier asks the senior guard for the money he lost in his bet because he bet about Irene. He thought that Irene was suddenly practicing because of losing to the neighboring countries. Lord Old Man watches Irene practice and thinks this guy isn't as bad as he looks. He can see that this guy isn't just passing the time, but his swordsmanship is very poor due to his lack of muscle strength. He could not hold the sword properly and his breath is also breaking quickly. It shows that he does not have enough stamina. The old man thinks that this boy has started practicing, but how long will he be able to continue his practice? Because perhaps he has done all this because of losing to the lord of the neighboring country, and thinks that if not today, tomorrow he will accept defeat. That's when the wind starts blowing very fast. There the soldiers and old
badly beaten and left to nurse his injuries. In the present world, Roman is resting in the bath, cursing his own body for its frailty. Heavenly Demon knows that it would be dangerous for him to just wander around without understanding the customs of this new world, and decides to defy the body of Moron, as being Roman is proving to be too tiring. Captain Jonathan arrived at King Romero's chambers, bearing news of his son, Roman. The captain informed the king that Roman had undergone a sudden transformation, displaying acts of great bravery. King Romero couldn't help but compare his son to a sore thumb, born during his most trying times and having experienced the extremes of life. Memories of Roman's childhood flooded back to the king when he was just a mere commoner and would give his candy to his father in hopes of completing his work faster and spending more time with him at home. King Romero had always wanted his son to be happy, so he gave him power and authority, but it seemed that Roman had chosen the wrong path. However, the bravery that Roman had recently displayed filled King Romero with hope for his future once again. Later, when Roman came to see his father, the king questioned him about his actions in destroying the Blood of Fangs, a notorious band of bandits that had been terrorizing the kingdom for years. Roman explained to his father the details of his plan and how he had successfully led his troops to defeat the Blood of Fangs, ensuring the safety and security of the kingdom and its people. King Romero listened to his son's tale with pride and admiration, marveling at the courage and leadership that Roman had displayed. He realized that perhaps Roman had not chosen the wrong path after all, and that he had the potential to be a great leader and king. From that day forward, King Romero made sure to support and guide his son, grooming him to be the leader that the kingdom needed. And thus, under Roman's rule, the kingdom flourished and prospered, with the people living in peace and security. Roman, however, didn't want his father to have high hopes for him and was in a dilemma about whether or not to tell the truth. As he pondered, memories of his childhood flooded back to him, when he was often beaten up by bullies. He remembered how he had picked up a rock one day and smashed it against the face of one of his tormentors, killing him in the heat of the moment. He grieved over the fact that he had never been loved by his parents like other children and how he had always had to prove his worth to them. But ultimately, he had reigned over them all, proving his worth to his father, the heavenly demon. Meanwhile, training was going on in the kingdom until it was interrupted by the captain as the king entered the training area. The captain then asked the trainees to have a duel with Roman Dimitri, but everyone took it as a joke to have a duel with such a coward. Moving 1 hour back into the story, Roman answered the king that he had defeated the Blood of Fangs. To not let Romero suspect his demon self, Roman explained that he had been secretly training as a swordsman. Roman wanted to prove himself to his father, which was why he had hidden everything from him. He also told his father that to break the bandits' whole gang's foundation, he had abducted their leader from their headquarters. Thinking about his son's bravery, careful decision-making skills, and abilities, King Romero was impressed with his son. The king then asked Roman to do him a favor and show him his true swordsmanship, the skills he had trained for secretly. King Romero truly wanted to see his son's true skills with his whole heart. Coming back to the present, none of the trainees wanted to volunteer as they were afraid of being kicked out if they won against the prince. But Captain Jonathan had a different opinion. He wanted someone with the best skills to spar with Roman Dimitri to not let the pride of the knights down. So he chose Chris, the vice-captain of Dimitri Knights, as the one suitable to duel with Roman Dimitri. But Chris, having a pathetic and miserable image of old Roman, didn't want to have a duel with him because he believed that old Roman couldn't fight. However, since the captain of the knights had ordered him, he was left with no choice but to fight him. But, taking advantage of old Roman's perceived weakness, Chris asked for swords in the duel. As soon as the fight started, Roman blocked Chris's sudden attack, shocking him. Chris, being a swordsman, didn't hold back and charged at Roman with his sword, trying to beat him. But Roman dodged the attack smoothly, giving Chris no room to think. Roman told him that it was indeed a good warm-up for him and that now it was time for a real fight. Roman attacked Chris, pushing him into a corner and forcing him to resort to only defensive skills against Roman. But when he was about to lose against Roman, Chris started using his special power, where Jonathan tried to stop him from doing so as it was pretty dangerous. Chris used his power, 1-star aura. But even using his special power against him, Chris lost, as Roman was a heavenly demon, a Giga Chad, not a mere commoner. Previously, the story ended with the protagonist, Roman, easily defeating the vice-captain of the knights. As the story unfolds, 2 knights are discussing Chris, who has been appointed as one of the deputy commanders of the knights. Captain Jonathan and his newly appointed apprentice, Chris, are training with swords and discussing how, even at a young age, Chris was able to achieve the title of a 2-star aura knight and develop his monocore after only 6 months of training his body. The 2 knights also talk about how Chris became a 1-star in just a short period of 3 years, and is a prodigy with great sword skills. Captain Jonathan, noticing Chris's fatigue, tries to stop the training. But Chris, determined, asks for Captain to train him again, showcasing his never-give-up attitude. Captain Jonathan praises Chris's abilities as a prodigy, but also notes his work ethic and describing Chris as a genius. Later in the story, Chris is defeated in battle against Roman Dimitri, leaving everyone in shock as to how a prodigy like Chris could be defeated by someone like Roman. However, what they don't know is that Roman is now a Giga Chad with demon powers. Chris, in pain, asks for Captain Jonathan's help. King Romero Dimitri, Roman's father, questions Captain Jonathan about his belief in Chris, his great 2-star young prodigy, and how he could be defeated so easily. Captain Jonathan is flustered and impressed by Roman's sword skills, questioning how someone could be so talented after only training for 2 years, whereas it seems to him that Roman has been secretly training for an eternity. He describes Roman as a genius at sword skills to King Romero Dimitri, regaining his belief in Roman Dimitri. Captain Jonathan states that Roman encountered all of his opponent's attacks with ease and was sharply focused on defeating them. This made Captain Jonathan fully believe in Roman's capabilities of defeating the vicious Blood of Fangs all by himself. Roman describes Chris's abilities as a great swordsman in Jonathan's point of view, but compared to himself, Chris's standard of fighting is at the lowest level. Roman then brutally damages Chris, comparing him to be weaker than the weakest in the Order of Demons. However, Chris's special power at the end fascinated Roman, making him curious about the powers in this world. On the other hand, his father, Romero Dimitri, is proud of his eldest son and describes him as a genius at sword skills. King Romero Dimitri calls Roman and tells him that his thinking about his future and accomplishing something for his own betterment made his father happy and proud. Romero Dimitri wants to give his son a reward befitting for Roman's accomplishments as a genius swordsman. Roman, taking advantage of this moment, asks his father to send him to war in the next 6 months. Romero asks him if he wants to get enlisted out of the war, but Roman denies it and tells his father to give him the authority to select his own team for the upcoming wars. Romero, shocked at his request, tells him to think about it again calmly. But Roman, being our determined protagonist, tells him that he will be going all by himself. Hearing this, King Romero declares that no one will interfere in his decisions. Roman asks for one more thing from his father, and due to his sudden growth, King Romero allows him to ask for anything. The clever demon inside of Roman asks to let Chris teach him the skill called aura. Soon, Chris is talking with Captain Jonathan about how shameful he feels for losing against Roman, even after using the aura. Captain Jonathan states that, even though he wants to decline the request, he cannot, but he can give him an offer. He wants Chris to teach him the aura technique and keep an eye on Roman's sudden transformation from being a poor swordsman to a great one. The captain tells Chris that if he successfully completes his task, he will reveal all of his secrets to him. Chris is skeptical, unable to believe that the captain would reveal the secret of becoming a 3-star aura knight so easily. However, he ultimately agrees to teach Roman the aura technique if the captain truly keeps his word. Meanwhile, Roman's servant, Hans, is praising him for defeating the deputy commander of knights in a sword fight, despite him only being a 2-star aura knight. Roman, unaware of what an aura is, asks Hans about it. Hans tells him that he has no clue, but suggests that it might be related to mana. Roman recognizes that the power of aura that Chris showed him in their fight is similar to the eruptions of energy that exist in their demon world. However, the way it is used in this world is different and inefficient, which confuses Roman. Roman smirked to himself, contemplating the fact that the inhabitants of this world had yet to discover the full potential of the mana power that resided within them. The following morning, Roman and Chris, both knights, began their aura training session together. It was evident that neither of them were particularly thrilled about the prospect of working with one another. Chris, despite his own internal turmoil, mustered the composure to begin the lesson by explaining the basics of aura to Roman. He explained that aura is a technique derived from mana power that develops within a knight. Magicians harness their mana to store magical powers in their circlets, while knights harness mana to strengthen their entire body with its immense power. He describes the historical origins of the aura technique, which was first developed by a man named Emperor Alexandro. Alexandro was the first person to understand that by storing mana throughout one's body, it could help to strengthen the entire body. Chris further explains that aura is simply a technique for harnessing the power of mana and expelling it outwards, causing a surge in one's abilities. He informs Roman that only a small number of individuals are able to develop the ability to sense mana within their body, and that it is extremely rare for someone to have this ability, as only 1 in thousands of those chosen as aura knights possess the capability to sense and control mana. Chris makes it clear to Roman that before learning anything about the power of mana, the first and most important step is to develop the ability to sense mana, which is a prerequisite for any further training. He taunts Roman by saying that it took him only 6 months to develop this ability, and that it may take Roman years to achieve the same level of mastery. Roman, not wasting any time, interrupts Chris and reveals that he already knows how to sense mana. Chris contemplates that it will not be an effortless task for someone like Roman, who has been perceived as intellectually lacking, to accomplish both winning a match and mastering the art of sensing mana. Nevertheless, Roman starts to cultivate his ability to sense mana with his heavenly demon powers, which he is already well acquainted with. Roman is resolved to comprehend the power of mana within himself in an honest and fair manner, as it is done by the inhabitants of this world. Chris imparts to him that the key to sensing mana is to focus on the rhythm of one's breath and concentrate on a single point in the body. He guides Roman that by doing so, he will be able to learn about the aura technique and, if successful, become a 1-star aura knight. As Chris is explaining the various ways in which aura can be manifested in weapons and the body to Roman, he is taken aback when he sees Roman generating a substantial amount of aura while boasting about his knowledge of mana. Roman ponders over the shortcomings of the usage of Kai in the present world, as compared to its utilization in his Murim world. In his Murim world, Kai was employed to eliminate impurities from within the body, whereas in this world, it is employed for different purposes. Roman perceives the Kai of the Murim world as raw power with a stronger sense, whereas the mana of this world is refined power with a lighter sense, which is why he finds it effortless to generate mana. Roman understands that the way the people of this world unleash the stored mana within them to attain immense power is highly inefficient for the body. Furthermore, Chris, being astounded by Roman's ease in manifesting aura, inquires about it. Chris becomes increasingly frustrated as it took him years to manifest mana and questions Roman about his secret and the truth he knows about mana manifestation. Chris becomes overwhelmed with questions about Roman's identity and the truthfulness of his claims, unable to fathom that Roman accomplished everything in mere seconds, while it took Chris a decade to achieve the same. Roman chuckles and tells Chris that the training methods he used for manifesting mana were incorrect. He explains to Chris that old-fashioned ways are not always the correct approach. Being a Giga Chad, Roman gives another fact check to Chris, who was always fixated on his goals and never doubted the training methods and his unwavering belief in Captain Jonathan. Roman does not blame him for following the methods and putting in hard work, but not questioning the methods is a foolish thing as it is not smart work. Roman reminisces on his past life and compares it to the criticism he received from his father and others. Believing in Roman's facts, Chris requests him to reveal the secret behind achieving mana manifestation in a short period of time. The scene then shifts to a war where Beak, the heavenly demon, has defeated a certain man who is kneeling on the ground. As Beak asks for his retaliation, the person denies and admits his defeat. He has never seen such a strong personality with such strong Kai ever before. The person, like Chris, asks Beak the secret to becoming stronger like him. This rekindles memories of deja vu in Roman's mind as he compares that guy to the present world's Chris, who is also doing the same. This excites the heavenly demon or our protagonist Chad Roman Dimitri, who finds it intriguing, and the story continues. As the scene changes, a man who conquered the blood demon sect under one command is shown. This man also begged Beak for the secret of his great power, the heavenly demon. The two men are now fighting for control of the demon sect. However, Beak easily defeats the man, causing him to fall to his knees. Roman recalls how the man did not hold back his shame and begged him to teach the secrets of his greater power. With this, Roman compares Chris to the man he defeated in the past. Roman, being a Chad, denies giving Chris any secrets, making Chris even more anxious. Roman tells him that the best advice he can offer is that the methods of training he followed were inefficient. Roasting him, Roman says that even his life choices were wrong, and if he wants to find a solution, Chris needs to focus on observing Roman Dimitri's actions and learn from them. Roman tells Chris to observe him in the battlefield in 6 months, and if Chris manages to focus on him for a decade, Roman assures him he will surely find an answer to his problem. Moving on, Chris sits dejected in his room, reflecting on the shame and harsh feedback he received from Roman Dimitri. He remembers how everyone praised him for sensing mana in just 6 months, and how the captain also praised him after he became a genius 1-star or a knight after only 3 years. But compared to Roman, who accomplished the same feat in mere seconds, Chris feels more traumatized. He recalls Roman's words that his training methods were inefficient, and how his lack of questioning them amused Roman. Remembering his defeat, Chris musters up his courage and decides to do as Roman said. Soon, Chris goes to Captain Jonathan's place and tells him that he will become a subordinate of Roman Dimitri, and follow him onto the battlefield to become even stronger. Captain Jonathan knows something must have happened between Chris and Roman, so he questions Chris about it. For a moment, both of them stare at each other intensely. Will they fall in love? Seeing Chris's determination and understanding that he must have thought it through before deciding to follow Roman onto the battlefield, Captain Jonathan allows him to leave the Dimitri Knights and follow him, only requesting that Chris protect Roman Dimitri at all costs while he achieves his goal. As Chris departs from his position as vice captain of the Dimitri Knights, Captain Jonathan remembers his past and sees a little boy crying hard over his dead mother, who was killed in the battlefield. Captain Jonathan, understanding Chris's capabilities and his sad past, thanks him for being willing to go with Roman Dimitri. He tells Chris that with his presence, Roman Dimitri can no longer be called a moron. The captain emphasizes that Chris needs to be well prepared for the battlefield. He tells Chris that in order to survive the chaos of the battlefield, he needs to have a secret weapon of his own making. Captain Jonathan encourages Chris to follow Roman Dimitri and learn from him, but also to develop his own unique skills and tactics to become an even stronger warrior. Chris thrives with excitement and happily agrees to follow his master. As the scene changes to a restaurant or a bar, where some people are still not complimenting Roman's brave achievements, calling him a half-assed idiot who couldn't defeat the vicious blood of fangs all by himself. They even blame the Dimitri Knights, accusing them of planning everything to make Roman Dimitri succeed. During this demeaning of Roman, Kevin hears it all and gets shocked that Roman defeated the Blood of Fangs all by himself, as he pleaded to Roman. Kevin remembers that Roman only defeated the goons from the Blood of Fangs with a single branch, and that he is fully capable of defeating them all by himself, because he believes in his young master Roman. Kevin asks himself if Roman Dimitri did all of this because he requested him to do so, keeping his word. But as Roman is a noble, why would he go that far for someone like him? Thinking this, Kevin praises Roman. Meanwhile, the owner of the shop shouts at him not to daydream and do his task immediately. Moving on, Kevin still can't let it go, thinking that he also wants to be stronger like Roman, and fight for his people like Roman Dimitri did, even being a noble. While he thinks about getting stronger like him, Kevin believes that if he can meet Roman once again, he can surely get some tips from him. As if his thoughts were heard, Kevin finally bumps into Roman Dimitri coming from the front. Seeing Roman Dimitri suddenly, Kevin can't believe his luck and drops the carton of potatoes on the ground. Excited Kevin, not knowing what to say, questions Roman about why he is there. When Kevin comes to his senses, he kneels down in front of Chad Roman Dimitri, showing him gratitude for saving his family from the vicious Blood of Fangs. Roman tells him that it's not important, what's important is Kevin's health and how he has been in the meantime. Kevin replies that the Blood of Fangs no longer threatens them, and with the help of his servant, Hans, he found a fitting job that allows him to feed his family. While Kevin shows his gratitude for Roman defeating the Blood of Fangs, Roman tells him that what's coming next will blow his mind. Roman wants to offer Kevin something that will ensure he never faces any financial difficulties again, giving him a comfortable home, nice food to eat, and he will be able to live a lavish lifestyle like rich kids do. Roman tells him that to live a better life and a lavish lifestyle, he needs to live for Roman and be loyal to him. Hearing this, Kevin bashes his head on the ground in front of Roman and pledges to serve him and live his whole life being loyal to him. Kevin pledges to Roman that he will die for him if Roman commands him to kill anyone. He will do so as per his command. Kevin tells Roman that as long as Roman protects his family from danger, he can control his life as per the needs. Roman sees that Kevin has shed his blood for pledging his life, which reminds the heavenly demon of a crazed stallion from his past life. Roman describes that the crazed stallion was a guy who would fight against hundreds solely on a single command of his master. Roman praises him for not giving up until he finishes the job his master gave him, which amazes them, naming him the crazed mare. Seeing the devotion of Chris and Kevin, Archad Roman is amused, thinking that it is worth investing his time on them. Further moving on, after taking Kevin to the palace with him, Roman tells his servant Hans to take good care of him and give him a tour of the castle, leaving Kevin in Hans's hands. Roman tells Kevin if he needs any help, he can visit him anytime in the library. Upon visiting the library, Roman starts learning about the Aura Knights from a book called The Path of an Aura Knight. As he reads, he finds out that in order to become an Aura Knight, one first needs to manifest aura, becoming a 1-star Aura Knight. To become a 2-star Aura Knight, one has to cut steel using aura power, and the intensity with which he cuts the steel will determine his rank. Once you reach the 3-star Aura Knight position, you will be treated as a higher command in the kingdom, just like Captain Jonathan. Roman further reads that there exists a 6-star Aura Knight in the Salamander Kingdom, but no one has ever heard of the existence of a 7-star Aura Knight. Even the top knights with aura power haven't reached the level of a 6-star Aura Knight. Roman compares the power level of Chris, a 2-star Aura Knight he fought, to that of Captain Jonathan, a 3-star Aura Knight, and concludes that they are only at the level of a 2nd-class fighter. Roman wonders what the class of a 6-star Aura Knight might be, as it is known that achieving a 6-star rank as an Aura Knight means no longer being a normal human, but instead existing as a demonic figure. Roman learned about the immense power of a 6-star aura, which is so powerful that the flames from their blades flow over meters of distance, making an impact that a normal human is not capable of in this world. Roman reads that only 12 people in the world possess such immense power as to have achieved a rank of 6-star aura. These 12 individuals are considered on the level of royalty, regardless of their race or nationality. Due to their formidable powers, these rare 12 individuals with 6-star aura are famously known as the 12 Blades of the Continent. After gaining information about the aura and ranks of knights, Roman praises the 12 Blades as the strongest, as they have reached this legendary level even without efficiently utilizing Kai energy, which requires talent to do so. Roman also learns about magicians, similar to the Archmage in his past world. Archmages are warriors who have reached the 7th circle rank in the demon sect. Roman describes them as half-man, half-god walking disasters who can strike fiercely. Their single strikes can level the earth and cloud the skies, and with their enormous numbers, archmages can easily overpower 6-star aura knights. Roman is curious about the concept of magic, which only exists in the present world and not in the world of Murim. As the story progresses, Roman's servant Hans takes him to a workshop that was previously used by the old baron. Hans explains that the workshop is highly secure and even air cannot enter the place. Roman finds the workshop suitable for his training for the battlefield and instructs Hans to let him train there for the next week without any food or other supplies and to not let anyone enter the place. Roman makes it clear to Hans that if it is not extremely dangerous to his own people, no one should disturb him, or else Hans will be held responsible. Hans agrees to Roman Dimitri's command and leaves the workshop, allowing Roman to train in peace. Roman sits on the floor of the workshop and concentrates on harnessing his Kai energy. He reflects on how he has only been able to manifest a small amount of mana until now, but in order to use the powerful magic of his heavenly demon self as he did in the past world, he must start with the first step. Roman begins to enchant the first step of Heavenly Demon Magician and unleashes his power as a human. As he concentrates, he removes the impurities present within his mind and body. As he focuses his mana power throughout his entire body, Roman begins to bleed from his mouth, nose, and ears as he expels a large amount of impurities present in his body. Roman wants to regain all the strength he had as a heavenly demon in order to live his whole life in this present world and to protect his people. Roman explains that the first step, called human, is only the beginning of regaining the strength of a heavenly demon. As the week passed, the Dimitri family received a visit from King Viscount Lawrence and his daughter, Ms. Flora Lawrence, of the Lawrence Kingdom. The king asked a servant for Roman Dimitri's whereabouts, but the servant replied that Roman was occupied with important business. King Lawrence decided to wait for Roman's return while also apologizing to the Dimitri family for any mistakes made. The story then flashes back a few hours earlier in the Lawrence Kingdom, where King Lawrence learned that Flora and Roman had ended their engagement without informing him. Flora, with her head down, explained to her father that during her last visit to the Dimitri family, she had ended her engagement with Roman and was unable to follow her father's orders. Even though she tried to force herself, Flora could not marry someone she did not love and respect. Upon hearing this, King Lawrence was filled with anger and shouted at Flora, unable to understand how his wise child could make such a decision. He exclaimed at Flora, asking how she could do this after knowing the current condition of the Lawrence kingdom, which was in danger of an upcoming attack from the Borko family that could cost them their territory. King Lawrence was scared as the Borko family was preparing for war and the Lawrence kingdom was in heavy danger. He knew the importance of having the Dimitris by their side as they were the only ones who could fight the Borko family, which is why Flora's marriage with Roman Dimitri was so important for their kingdom. Ms. Flora, on the other hand, tried to defend herself by saying that the Lawrence kingdom could not win by fighting on its own without the help of the Dimitri family. However, King Lawrence denied this, knowing that the Borko family was supported by the central government, which would lead to the Lawrence kingdom losing its territory to the Borkos. King Lawrence reflected on the fact that the central government approving the Borko family to take loans without any returns was suspicious, and this was not just a war between families, but nations would be involved on a large scale. King Lawrence, frustrated by his daughter, told her that the Borkos would take everything from them, their land, honor, and even the beautiful Ms. Flora, famously known as the Flower of Lawrence. After getting a long lecture from her father, Ms. Flora now calmly thought over the issue and tried to set aside her pride of being the Flower of Lawrence for the sake of her kingdom. On the other hand, Hans grew anxious as Roman Dimitri had not come out of the workshop, making King Lawrence and Ms. Flora wait from morning until sunset. While Hans was thinking of how to get Roman out of the workshop, suddenly the gate of the workshop opened. Hans was shocked by the restless expression on Roman's face, indicating that something had happened to him. The scene then shifts to King Lawrence, who has determined that his daughter, Flora Lawrence, must marry Roman Dimitri in order to save their kingdom from an impending danger. Despite feeling uneasy about forcing his daughter to marry without love, King Lawrence sees no other option. He grapples with the moral implications of this decision, feeling guilty for potentially causing his daughter harm. Determined to confront Baron Dimitri himself, King Lawrence storms into the room where he is working and berates him for making their guests wait so long. King Lawrence's frustration boils over as he shouts at Romero Dimitri, accusing him and his family of being cruel to their guests. He never imagined that the Dimitri family could have been so heartless. King Romero, hearing King Lawrence's complaint, asks if he had made an appointment to meet him. King Lawrence retorts that Baron Romero never responded to their request a week ago, leaving him with no other choice but to come without an appointment. Baron Romero, unfazed by the complaint, coldly asks King Lawrence if he had anything else to say. King Lawrence, disappointed by the Baron's attitude, explains that he had come to share his frustration over waiting for half a day. Baron Romero reveals that Roman had informed him of his decision to break the arranged marriage with Flora the day Flora visited them. Despite scolding Roman for behaving like a disobedient child, Baron Romero seems unbothered by the situation. King Romero further explains that seeing his son's determination to not go through with the marriage and follow his own path left him speechless and unable to question him further. Baron Romero berates King Lawrence, asserting that the Dimitri family are the ones who have been wronged by the dissolution of the marriage, not the Lawrence family. He accuses King Lawrence of being the ones to initiate the marriage arrangement in the first place, and expresses his anger at their audacity to come and shout at the king of the Dimitri family after breaking the arrangement themselves. He slams his hand on the table in frustration, demanding to know why they couldn't have just waited a little longer before coming to confront them. Baron Romero explains that the Dimitri family had no desire to meet with them in the first place, and that their shameless behavior after breaking the engagement only served to further infuriate him. He makes Flora and King Lawrence feel ashamed of their actions, and tells them that they should not speak any further complaints. King Romero Dimitri then reveals that the Borko family had also proposed marriage to them a month before, and if they had accepted the Borko's proposal instead of the Lawrence family, the Dimitri family would have gained a portion of the Lawrence territory and support from the central government. King Lawrence is taken aback and questions Romero Dimitri as to why he declined such a favorable offer from the Borko family. King Romero Dimitri explains to King Lawrence that the Dimitri family already had power and wealth, and therefore saw no need to accept the Borko's offer. He goes on to say that his personal liking of the Lawrence family was another reason for declining the offer. Baron Romero tells King Lawrence that despite Roman's feelings for Flora, the flower of the Lawrence family, they still decided to face the Borko family's anger in war rather than accepting their offer. After hearing this, King Lawrence feels guilty for his behavior and regrets shouting at King Dimitri out of anger. He acknowledges that as a king, he should have maintained his composure. Baron Romero Dimitri, disappointed with King Lawrence and Flora, tells them that even if Roman and Flora were not a good match, they should not have underestimated the powerful Dimitri family. When Roman added the Dimitri surname to his name, he became a respected prince in the eyes of all. As King Lawrence scolds her, Flora is reminded of her past, when she was a student at the academy. She came from a small, insignificant family, the Joels, who were looked down upon by the other, more powerful and wealthy royal families. One day, when a young Joel broke a vase at the academy, a punishment committee was formed to discipline him for his small mistake. Flora, watching from the sidelines, felt empathy for the poor kid as his mistake was not a significant one. King Lawrence realizes the mistake made by the Lawrence family and apologizes to Baron Romero Dimitri for their wrong decision. Flora also comes to realize her place in the world and that the weak must always bow to the stronger. She apologizes to King Romero for her actions. This moment is interrupted when Roman Dimitri enters the room, fresh from a one-week training session. He has undergone a significant transformation in appearance, with a new haircut and a more rugged, toned physique. Both Flora and her father King Lawrence are shocked by Roman's new look. Roman reveals to his father Baron Romero Dimitri that he understands the implications of the union between their two families and the potential consequences of the marriage. He tells his father that the Lawrence family only sees the Dimitri family as a means to an end, a way to secure their victory in the upcoming war against the Borco family. King Romero asks Roman if he still wants to pursue a relationship with Flora of the Lawrence family, despite his previous decision to break off the engagement. Roman tells his father that he doesn't care about what others might think of him as a fool of the Dimitri family. He just wants his potential partner to judge him based on her own personal opinion of him. He firmly tells his father not to interfere with his decision to end the engagement with Flora Lawrence and to let the broken engagement stay broken forever. That marks the end of this part of the recap of the series. Lastly, don't forget to subscribe, share, and like this video to help us bring you the next part of this exciting series. If I get a great response on this part 4, I'll be bringing you the 5th part as well. Leave a comment with the word New Roman to let me know you're excited for part 5 of the series. Till then, take care, I'll see you next time.